Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Guys, welcome back to our /MaliciousCompliance, where people follow exact orders to spite others. And in today's episode, people are learning hard lessons again, guys. Bad bosses, girlfriends, and one OP tells a wild story of how they taught their disgusting roommates a lesson they won't ever forget. So sit back, relax, and please remember that this voice right here should only be on the Dark Fluff YouTube channel, nowhere else. Let's dive in. So this requires a tiny bit of context. I am by nature someone who agrees to things. Not because I'm a pushover exactly, more that I just find it easier to say yes and adjust than to push back and deal with the fallout. My girlfriend Claire found this genuinely frustrating. For roughly 2 years, she's made it her personal mission to get me to say no more often. She would tell me things like, "You're allowed to have preferences. Stop agreeing with things you don't actually want. And just say no sometimes. It costs you nothing." And really, she meant it kindly. She brought it up maybe once a month, sometimes more. She even framed it as personal growth and said it was something she admired in people who could do it cleanly without guilt. She was so consistent about this that it started to actually rewire something in me. I began to notice, then question, then occasionally decline things. It was small stuff at first. I would say no to a friend who wanted to borrow my charger for 3 days. I would tell my cousin that I couldn't make it to his thing. It felt strange, but Claire was genuinely proud every time I reported back. Then, in late February, her friend needed someone to watch their dog for 8 days while she visited family. Claire asked if I could do it. And I want to be clear that I thought about it for a real amount of time. I considered the dog, the 8 days, the fact that I don't particularly enjoy dogs in my space for extended periods, and then the 2 years of dedicated coaching I'd received on this exact type of moment. And that's when I said no. I said it calmly, without guilt, no long explanation, just I don't think that works for me. Now, there was a pause, and Claire just stared at me. I watched her go through several expressions in about 4 seconds. She then starts to say something, stopped, and then said, "That's not what I meant." And I said, very gently, that I understood, but that she's been a really excellent teacher, and I wanted her to know that the lessons had stuck. The dog ended up going to a kennel, and Claire hasn't brought up the saying no thing since February. What a wonderful compliance that was. And guys, the top comment of this post is so wholesome. So many people saying how proud they are of OP and how awesome it was that OP's girlfriend never brought it up again. Gotta love it though, right? The day the student becomes the teacher. And this next OP, similar situation, where their boss regrets their exact words. So this happened a long time ago, about 13 to 15 years ago. I just started a job at a government agency where I was responsible for a big fleet of cars. My duties included driving the vehicles to various places, like repair shops, tire companies, glass repair shops, and inspection centers. I also performed simple repairs myself, like replacing some light bulbs and all of that. In addition, I hand washed and cleaned every car, both inside and out. Refilled the washer fluid, make sure all the items were in such car, yada yada yada. Washing a car inside and out, checking the fluids, and making sure all the necessary equipment was present took a minimum of 45 minutes and a maximum of about an hour. About a month into the job, my boss decided that I was taking too much advantage of my flexible working hours, and told me that I had to stop working precisely at 4 p.m. So I decided to follow my boss's rule to the letter. As the days went on, if it was after 3:15, I didn't think I had enough time to start washing and fixing another car. So instead, I did small tasks like sweeping the floor, restocking the supply room, that kind of stuff. After a few weeks of this, my boss noticed that fewer cars had been cleaned and fixed in total. So he calls me into a meeting to ask why. That's when I brought up his policy that I had to leave at exactly 4 p.m. and that I shouldn't be taking advantage of my flexible hours. The boss suddenly realized why I'd been taking advantage of the flexible hours before. I was simply working smart. Some days, I would go home a little earlier after a car was finished, and on other days, I needed an extra 5 to 20 minutes to complete a car. It wasn't a daily issue, but it happened often enough that the boss's new policy creates a problem. So after the boss had been thinking for a moment, he said that we should go back to the way I was working before. He apologized for his poor policy and admitted he was wrong. I ended up staying at that job for about 2 more years, and we got along well for that entire time. So I'm a 27-year-old woman with 3 male roommates who are all grad students. I'm in the master bedroom, and they're all on the other side of the house. They're all also about 2 years younger than me, so there is kind of a house mom role that I've fallen into. Now, I don't mind it most of the time because I'm like, hey guys, don't forget to do this and that. And then they do it, but the cleanliness issue is one I really can't get over. When I cook, I either clean the dishes as I'm cooking, or I soak them in the sink for a little while, and then clean them within the next couple of hours. My roommates, however, just let it sit there. I got annoyed about 2 weeks ago because I went to make myself some food and there were so many dishes in the sink that I couldn't actually clean my pan. Out of frustration and probably a bit of passive aggression, I cleaned all the dishes and then waited for a time the guys were home to let them know. I just said something like, hey, I went to wash a pan earlier and there was no space in the sink. I know you guys are busy with classes, but there's gotta be some way to get your dishes clean within 48 hours of them being dirtied. That way, we don't get this massive pile up and I don't feel like you guys are leaving the household chores to me. And this was the guys' response. They all said to me, listen, of course our dishes aren't your responsibility. From now on, don't worry about it. Only do the dishes that are yours. Fast forward to spring break. Roommate number 1 is going out of state to visit family. Roommate 2 is in South America. And roommate number 3 is probably at his girlfriend's place. They all disappeared like the whisper in the wind, and I woke up the next day realizing that not only were none of the guys here, but they left a bunch of dirty dishes in the sink. Now, we live in the South, and it's just starting to get warm outside. There's bugs, and these bugs get attracted to grossness that gets left on the counters. It's day number 3, and all kinds of gnats and flies are gathering around their dishes. Normally, it would drive me crazy, and I would clean it all, but you know what? I refused to wash their disgusting dishes because they told me I didn't have to. I'm not even going into the kitchen right now, it's so nasty. Thankfully, being in the master bedroom means I have my own bathroom, and I've decided for the hell of it that I'm just gonna wash my dishes in the bathroom sink, which surprise surprise is bug-free. Tomorrow, 2 of them get back from their trips, and I plan to give absolutely zero craps when they realize this is what happens when they leave all the kitchen work for the woman of the house to do. Update. So I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting my post to get so upvoted and commented on, but I'm guessing that means I'm not the only one who's been in this situation. First off, for those of you who are saying that I should move the dishes into their rooms, that would not be maliciously complying. Nobody told me to move the dirty dishes. Also, that would have required me touching everything, which I truly did not want to do. And to those of you who said I was just setting up my house for a bug infestation, you know what? It's an old rental house in the woods in the Big South. Bugs are something we have to stay on top of. Normally, they kind of hang around the trash can, which is gross, but whatever, it's trash. And I usually spray the can down with Raid whenever we take it out. Either way, it's not my job to prevent the house from getting infested, it's everyone's job. That's the whole point. Anyways, moving on. Because all my roommates come home at different times, you're gonna have to know them individually. So here are some fake names. Roommate 1, who went to visit family, we'll call Nathan. Roommate number 2, who went to South America, we'll call Lou. And roommate number 3, who is hanging out with his girlfriend, is Rob. Again, these are not real names. I'm just trying to keep them distinct so you don't get mixed up on who's who. So first, we have Rob, who came home last night with his girlfriend. As far as I can tell, they skipped the kitchen entirely and they went straight to his room. This morning though, I was unlucky enough to be woken up by them shuffling into the kitchen for coffee. Rob said it's effing gross in the kitchen and his girlfriend agrees. Rob then proceeds to say something like, "This is why I don't even cook in here." Which is true. He doesn't cook very often, mostly gets delivery, so I can safely assume the dishes did not belong to him. He and his girlfriend left the house not long after I heard this conversation. The next to arrive was Nathan, around 2 in the afternoon. I was actually out in the backyard hosing down my cat's litter box when he pulls into the driveway. I heard him enter the house, so unfortunately, I didn't see his initial reaction. When I did go back inside, he was in his room unpacking from his trip, but there was that gross little buzz sound around the dishware. I went into my room to reassemble the litter box. After about 2 hours going by and there was zero kitchen activity, I start to get anxious. And I gotta say, some of your comments did worry me, folks. Stuff like, they won't care, they're your bugs now. I seriously started thinking, what if they really don't give a crap and these dishes get ignored for another 48 hours? What if I got myself worked up for nothing? So I actually came up with the plan B. Plan A, of course, was the best timeline, a beautiful moment of clarity where all the roommates realized that communal living is a team effort, and we all have to do our part to get by. Plan B would to be wait until all the roommates were home yet again, and corral them into the kitchen to say, "Look at this disgusting crap, this is bugs. You left your dishes for days and days for me to do. Don't tell me you didn't. There's the bleach, there's the insecticide, get to work." My blood was boiling just thinking about it, and I can be kind of scary for a little lady, so a part of me was actually kind of hoping that I would get to do Plan B to let off some steam. Thankfully, at one point, Nathan comes out of his room and he starts making a frozen pizza in the kitchen. I hear some dishes clang, the oven door opening and closing, and the sweet smell of pepperoni filling the air. A few more dishes clanged, and then Nathan started coming by my room. I heard him before I saw him. He says to me, "Hey," and I respond, "Hey, how was your trip?" He responds, "Good, I'm just jet-lagged, but what the heck happened in here?" I say, "What do you mean?" And he says, like, is something rotting in the garbage disposal? I say, "Are you talking about the bugs? I mean, that's what happens when crap gets left out like that and everyone leaves town." He then makes a face as if to say, "Gross." And I respond, "Yeah, that's pretty gross, but there's cleaning stuff in the cabinet underneath if you're looking for it." Nathan gives a long sigh and then says, "Cool, thanks." He then walked off looking very sullen, like Charlie Brown on a bad day. And the nice part about the house mom thing is at the very least, when I do tell someone to do something, they do it. So as pouty as Nathan was, he starts cleaning while his pizza cooked. In my head, I was just screaming, "Hooray!" Like seriously, I did a little girly happy dance at my desk and I allowed myself to relax a little. Not only was Nathan cleaning the dishes themselves, but the surfaces around the sink. He was also attempting to spray the bugs to death. I just left him to it, and I did consider updating you guys at this point, but not all the roommates were back yet, and I hadn't seen the finished product, so for all I knew, he could have done a crappy job. I actually did end up checking the kitchen not long after the conversation, and to my great pleasure, there were no dishes in the sink and very few bugs. We're still basically a cabin in the woods, so some little gnats and fruit flies are an unfortunate inevitability. But it was nowhere near the thriving community it had been. Lou, the final roommate, gets home around 8 o'clock that night, much later, in a wonderful mood. He's the party boy roommate, and he and Nathan are best buddies who often get drunk together. Our recycling bin is always full of beer cans and empty bottles of booze. It's pretty much always because Lou and Nathan stay up late smoking cigarettes and drinking. So Lou gets back, and he starts unloading beers onto the counter. All I hear is thunk, thunk, thunk. He then screams out and says, Nathan, come here, you son of a gun, let's drink." Nathan had been asleep, catching up from his jet lag, and he stumbles out of his room. There's 2 beer cans open. Nathan says, "Lou, you owe me like 5 beers. Did you make chicken last week, you idiot?" Lou responds, probably. You want some?" He then opens the fridge door, and Nathan says, "No, dude, you didn't wash any of your crap. It was still sitting in the sink today when I got back." Cue the awkward pause, and the fridge door closes, and Lou says, "Holy F, are you serious?" Nathan says, "Yeah, dude, look at this." I'm assuming Nathan took pictures of the sink when he got back, and he starts showing them to Lou. And he says, "This is what it looked like in here. Like, I know the baking sheet was mine from before, but..." At this point, they start whispering a bit, so I couldn't make it out. But I'm fairly certain that I heard my name in there, so I can only assume it was somewhere on the spectrum between "we literally just told her she wouldn't have to do our dishes" and an angry "she was a huge bitch about it, I had to clean everything." Either way, whatever, I don't mind being the bad guy when I have a clean sink. A few minutes ago, I just popped out to the kitchen to make myself some tea. Everything looked good, thank baby Jesus. Lou and Nathan were on the back porch, chain smoking, and for the sake of it, I gave the kitchen another good hose down with the insecticide and then wiped it down to dry. The kitchen definitely smells like bug spray right now, but honestly, I'll take it. Maybe the lingering smell will be a reminder. I wish I could fast forward into the future and tell you guys, and they never left dishes in the sink ever again, the end, but only time will tell on that front. It seems like the #1 culprit here was Lou, and I am a bit sad he didn't have to deal with the bugs face to face. But if Big Brother Nathan keeps him on track, we'll be fine. I'm sure that some of you were hoping for there to be a big blowout roommate brawl, and to be honest, a part of me was prepared to get into an argument over this. But I am grateful that things just got done without there being too much of an issue. Thank you so much for reading my post and this follow-up, and for being so invested in the outcome here. And for goodness sake, wash your dishes. Honestly, even though OP thought this was super anticlimactic, the story was still satisfying, and this was honestly the best possible outcome, like she said, where there was no argument and the roommates realized how badly they effed up. That said, guys, I don't want to be that person, but spraying pesticides around the sink area and around where you cook and prepare food, that can't be good for your health. And this person comments, "I lived in a house with 5 other guys. I just ended up keeping a plate, a bowl, glass, and utensils in my room." And this person says, "I once came home from a trip to find a household friend in the house with none of my actual housemates around. He was drinking milk off of an effing plate because there was a clean plate, but God forbid he wash a glass." So this took place around December 1992 to January 1993. I got a job as a security guard after leaving the army because I wasn't qualified to do much else, and I hadn't decided if I was going to college or not. The company refused to pay very much, so they had high turnover. Because of the turnover, they had small raises built in at 90 days, 6 months, and a year. This was clearly as an incentive to stay on. I needed a job, and until I had my crap together, this would do. So I just showed up and worked. My 1-year anniversary rolls around, and I don't see my 50 cents an hour raise on my paycheck, but something more like 35 cents. So I called my boss. My 3 and 6 months raises had been delivered with no issues, so I was surprised my 1-year anniversary hadn't shown up. Supposedly, they wanted to give all employees a raise, so they did. And yes, I got a small raise, all along with the other guards, a few hundred of us. It was something like 35 cents an hour for each of us, which is okay, fine. But what about my promised 50 cents an hour? As far as I was concerned, this 35 cents an hour was something you initiated after promising me more, so this is bonus. When I called the manager, I was told I wasn't going to get a raise for my 1-year raise because you just got a raise. No one gets 2 raises at once. If your pay raise isn't enough, you need to quit. In other words, they were trying to claim a 35 cent an hour raise for every employee somehow was overriding the fact that I was owed an additional 50 cent an hour longevity raise. I'm sure others were caught up like that. I just thought to myself, fine, if they want to give me 35 cents an hour of a raise and tell me that that's equal to the 85 cents an hour, I'll find something better. I spent the next week calling in sick and showing up late while job hunting. I called the office at the end of my last day and I told them I was done and they could find someone else, giving them no notice at all, and that's when panic mode ensued. Everyone else was at 40 hours for the week and they hated paying overtime. One of the salaried managers had to cover for me. But that's the thing, they told me to quit, so I did. I'm now a teacher near retirement and my raises are still crap, but at least I can live off of it and I do have a crappy union for now, which is more than what I had then. A few more cents an hour and they could have kept me as a wage slave. Crazy that I would even consider it now looking back on it. At least I enjoy my job today, as crazy as the kids are. Seriously, who else loves a good story where the boss is absolutely shocked that their worker quit after telling them to? Like, some people never learn that it actually costs less in the long run to keep existing talent with appropriate compensation. Like, just pay your darn workers. I don't get it. What's that saying? Penny wise, pound foolish. And if you thought that was satisfying, well, something that's equally satisfying, at least to me, is when an absolute jerk complains about something and gets embarrassed in the end. Listen to this one. So here's a bit of background. I own and operate a barbecue and grill restaurant. We run a special promotion often, and on this day, we have a promotion for 1 kilogram of skewers, pork or chicken, for €6.50. This happened on a Saturday night. A large group comes in, and one of them is a guy known to almost all of the restaurant owners in town. Let's call him Dick. Now, Dick has a tendency to complain about the food in order to get freebies, either something extra or the whole order. So they place their orders, and about 20 minutes later, they're served. A few minutes later, my head server Mary comes inside, furious. She screams at me saying, "Give me the scales." Me, slightly confused, say, "What for?" She screams, "Just give me the effing scales." So I give her the electronic scales and she grabs an empty plate and heads outside. I follow her because I know something's up. She goes to the group that includes Dick and she puts the scales on the table and she says, "Let's weigh them." You see, Dick had ordered the promotion and then said that his order was missing almost half of it, and he demanded 4 more skewers to make it correct, in his words. Now, in almost any other place, he'd probably be right. Most of them buy their skewers already made, and they weigh anywhere between 100 to 120 grams, which means a kilo is usually 10 skewers. But we prepare our skewers in-house, and they're much bigger, between 180 to 220 grams. So our kilo is usually 6 of them. So basically, Dick was demanding almost another kilo of meat for free. So with that, Dick smugly says, "Yeah, let's weigh them and you can bring me what you still owe me." Mary grabs the skewers and a fork, and she starts removing pieces of meat and placing them on the scales. Initially, Dick has a very smug smile on his face, but he starts to frown when 3 skewers are emptied and the scale shows more than half a kilo of meat. Finally, with the second piece from the 5th skewer, the scale shows just above a kilo. Mary, holding the remaining skewers and smiling smugly, says, "It seems you were right about the order not being correct. We actually gave you more, so I'll take these back to the kitchen. Enjoy your food." Mary returned smiling to the kitchen and she put the skewers aside. After the group left, she told me that the look on his face is something she'll never forget. And to top that off, the rest of his group was smirking and telling him he deserved it the whole night. Yeah, I think we can agree that Mary needs a raise, right? And guys, if I was eating there and I saw that, she's certainly getting a huge cash tip from me. Like, that is pure entertainment and awesome. And to close off the episode, guys, this next OP shares another wonderfully satisfying story about what their coworker did. I've worked in bars for years, and this has to be one of the best F yeah moments of my time. I worked with this one guy who was always on it. He was super smart, never lost for words, very funny, and genuinely one of the most professional bartenders I've ever worked with. This was an exceptional night. We worked 2 to a station on really busy nights, so I had a front row seat to this gem. This one greasy D-bag is waiting in front of our station with his elbow on the bar, not facing us. Getting a little annoyed that he's blocking people getting served, Sam taps him on the arm and he says, "Hey man, you want anything?" He replies, "In a second." He shoos Sam off and continues greasing on this drunk girl. Starting to change his attitude, Sam quips back and says, "You're blocking people from the bar, man. You need to take a crap or get off the pot." And things start slowing down, and I'm thinking, where's this going? The greasy dude's face screws up and he looks Sam up and down and he says, "Give me a Coke." Sam whips a glass behind his back and he catches it in his left hand. Ice in the glass on the bar, and he throws a straw in the air as he pours Coke from the soda gun. He then says, "$2.50, thanks." The greasy dude's staring at the drink, and he asked, "What is this?" Sam says, "A Coke, as you asked." The guy replies, "That's not what I asked for. If I wanted ice, I would have asked for ice, idiot," pushing the glass back at Sam. And this is when Sam picks up the glass with both hands, and he did something I wasn't expecting. He apologizes. He says to him, "You're so right. I'm sorry. How stupid of me. Let me fix that for you." Sam then grabs the soda gun and he pours Coke all over the bar counter. The dude jerks his arm away, not because he notices it, but because his shirt's getting wet. His anger is through the roof at this point. Sam then says, "If you wanted an effing glass, you would have asked for one." He says that as he throws a straw into the puddle. He turns his back, walks off, and flips the guy the bird. My hero. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /malicious compliance. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's an r/entitled people episode, where a psycho Karen harasses OP and she accuses OP of poisoning her son. It's such a wild episode, so go check it out if you haven't. And myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.